Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Let's Play It by Ear podcast featuring me, your host, Joanna, and co-host, Carrie. We are doing a podcast about being musicians, and this is our first season. We are calling it Opus 1, and we are talking about music school this season. And today we are doing our first episode, number 1. All right, Carrie, take it away with our disclaimers.
Okay, thank you, Joanna. So just like she said, this is a podcast that we're putting together. It is not sponsored, and it is just basically meant to capture what we're thinking about, our opinions, our thoughts, our experiences, but if you find useful advice in there, that is absolutely wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And who are you, Carrie?
Who am I? Let's see. This is a hard part, actually, and we'll explain a little bit why later. Yeah. Okay, so who am I? I am a freelance bassoonist. I play with orchestras such as the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra, the Vancouver Opera, Vancouver Metropolitan, Kamloops Symphony, and I also play with various other chamber orchestras and church ensembles. And then I teach privately, teach bassoon and piano on the side, and I also work as a marketing and communications coordinator at the Vancouver Academy of Music. Beautiful. So just a little bit about how I got there. My qualifications. Mm-hmm. Our qualifications. So I did my undergraduate at UBC, got a, what is it called? Bachelor's of Music.
Yes.
Major in bassoon performance, and I did a psychology minor. Mm-hmm. And then I went over to London, UK, and I did my bassoon performance master's degree at the Royal College of Music. And worked a little bit after that, and then recently I just finished my second master's from Purdue University, doing a master's of science in communications.
Yes. And you're very good at communicating too, my dear.
Oh, I hope so. Mm-hmm. I hope so. Thank you. Yeah. So my long list is done. Joanna, excellent. How about you?
It's my turn.
Tell people who you are.
Who am I? All right. I'm Joanna, and I'm probably a little better known for my YouTube channel, Just Another Flutist. I started this channel while we were in school, and it's not a huge channel, but it's a really fun little community over there. We've extended that community over to Twitch now. So what do? My main gig is teaching the flute privately online. So I have an online studio, and I actually started doing this before the pandemic. Most people have started teaching online because of the pandemic, but I got thrown money over the internet by a random mother who found me and wanted me to teach her daughter. This happened about 6 or 7 years ago now, and I've been basically teaching online since then exclusively. So there's that. That's my main gig. That's my main income. But on the side, I still make some YouTube videos. Mostly I'm focusing on reviewing flutes with the Flute Center of New York. That was a really fun story about how they just cold emailed me to partner with me, and which we might talk about more in the future.
But I also, how good you are.
Please. No. I'm going to keep going with my list. I also stream my practice sessions. So these are legit practice sessions. This is anytime I'm practicing right now, I'm streaming it on Twitch. And I do that to document kind of the real behind the scenes of being a musician. And like all the nitty gritty. Like even last year, people watched my flute's head joint cork disintegrate on camera because you could actually hear my tone tanking as the days went by. Wow. Yeah. So like, it's that type of thing that I want to document. Like I want to document what it's really like behind the scenes. So that's been really fun. Mm-hmm. Like Carrie, I also went to the University of British Columbia and received a bachelor's of music as well, but for me in flute performance. And then I went down to San Francisco State University to get a master's in flute performance again. And then, I was going to stay down in California for a bit, but I couldn't really find my footing there. So I came up to Seattle, and I've been here for the last 7-ish years doing my thing.
That long already?
Yeah, it's been that long. I know. Wow. Isn't it crazy?
Time flies.
Time really does fly. Yeah. So it's been really fun here. I really love it here. I'm really into video games too. So, Seattle is kind of the place to be if you're a nerd like that.
Yeah, I know.
Woo!
I've heard.
Elevator.
Our list is done.
Yes, elevator pitch done. Yes. Mm-hmm. It's always very weird to do this elevator pitch of what we do as musicians. We were talking about that when we were preparing this podcast, actually. Yeah.
Because one of the things that I think we kind of stumble upon when people ask us, it's just a very basic question. What do you do? The first thing that comes out of your mouth is, Yeah. Because in your mind, you're just trying to sort everything out. Like, what exactly do I do?
Exactly.
And then how do you say it so they more or less understand?
Yeah. And it's constantly changing too. Like your career as a musician is never really static. So like I didn't really feel like I could call myself an online private flute teacher, like a real one, until many years into doing it. Because at first I was only doing it for one student every other week, So it's like, how do you just randomly add that into your list of things that you do, right? Because it might just be a one-off thing, or it might become a main gig. Like, you have no idea. So it's very hard to come up with your elevator pitch of what you do.
It is.
But for you guys, our listeners, we did it because we figured that you would like to know, why are we talking about music school?
Yeah.
All right. So we should talk a little bit about how we met, Carrie.
Mm-hmm. It has to do with something that you said just now. Mm-hmm. We met in music school.
Yes.
And that's how this all started.
Yes.
Do you want to recap your memories?
All right. So if we start with my memories of us meeting, we knew of each other for a while because when you're in music school, you tend to stick with your same instrument group. It's like a little same instrument clique, basically. Mm-hmm. And so I stuck with my flute friends for most of first and second year. I would say that the only people outside of that group was my wind quintet that I very luckily got placed in first year. And but they were really kind of like my only other friends that were sort of like outside of the flute world or the flute clique at school. So, but I knew about Carrie because I mean, obviously we're in the same year and everything. So we see each other for the same classes. I mean, like it's like going to Hogwarts, you know what I mean? Like you see each other in the same exact classes for music theory, music history, ear training, etc. I think we were in slightly different classes for ear training because they were like smaller classes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but
they broke us up into different groups.
Exactly. But the larger lectures, it was like you obviously would see the same people. How many people were there per large lecture? Was it like 60 people? Was it that much or was it fewer?
Large lecture, you mean like theory and history?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. I actually thought it was 30-something.
Was it 30-something?
I don't know. That's what I thought.
I guess it might have been 30-something.
It seems like in theory, you could see everyone. It wasn't a lot.
That's true.
Not a lot of people.
That's true. It must have been closer to 30 then. Yeah, so it's like
30 to 60. We'll say.
Exactly. So like you see the same people every single day. So we saw each other. But we didn't really hit it off until third year. And for me, I have a very distinct memory of us walking back from the Chan Center, which is the name of the big concert hall at UBC. We were walking back from the Chan Center to the music building, and it's a little bit of a walk. And for some reason, I mentioned something to do with vlogging video something to do with making a short or something, like a comedy short. And then you kind of popped in and you were like, I'll write the script. I'm totally into this stuff too. And I was like, what? Someone else is like just as weird as me. This is great. So we kind of hit it off from that point. I remember we just kind of stuck like glue immediately.
Yeah.
And we still have some of those videos up. I think some of them made it onto my channel. So if you go far back enough to like 2010, I think it was 2010. 2010, 2011. They're still public. I've kept them still public. You can still find some of these really old videos that we made together where we were exploring the concept of like making comedy shorts together and stuff like that. That was some good writing, Carrie. It was really funny.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, we plotted it together, but again, it's like taking from our own experiences and what we thought were enjoyable experiences that we wanted to share. And that's why we tried doing that.
Exactly. So how about you? What were your memories of us meeting?
Yeah, first and second year, I remember seeing you. It was like we passed by each other in the hallway, like you said in Hogwarts. You see each other all the time.
Yeah.
But we've never really truly spoken to each other, I don't think. Like I knew you by name, I know you play flute. And that's about it.
Exactly. I knew you were Carrie and I knew you played the bassoon. Like that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing. I stuck with like the bassoon studio in first and second year. First year was pretty lost, actually. I think floating around, trying to find my footing. Yeah, and then third year, I remember you approached me, or I overheard you saying something about videos, and I said, "Hey, I like script writing. Let's try and do something together." And I remember the first time that we actually tried to do something, we sat down on the third floor hallway at the table in front of Dr. Bob's room with your laptop.
Yep.
And no camera, no microphones, no whatever. It was just, I think we filmed it with your webcam.
Yes.
Like the built-in one on the laptop. Yeah. We wanted to do it that badly. We just tried one. And then I think that's where it took off.
Yeah, that was really funny. And Carrie just mentioned Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob is our beloved theory professor. And we did get his permission to mention his name on this podcast. So he's been such a support of just everything we do and just everything every student of his has done. He's always been a huge support, your biggest fan. And I've actually featured him on my own channel on YouTube. So if you guys want to check out a little bit more about Dr. Bob, you can just straight up search Dr. Bob, just another flutist, and you'll probably find our video. I did a few projects with him as well, and he's just very lovely to work with on a professional level as well. But yeah, our memories are just in front of Dr. Bob's office.
Yeah, he's played a key role.
He really has. He really has.
Yeah, even now he's interested in what his students do too. So if you're lucky enough to find a teacher who's like that, keep in touch with them, keep the relationship going. You never know what kind of advice they can impart on you.
Oh my God, speaking of advice,
don't take it for granted.
Yeah, we'll talk about this later on in this season, but once you find a professor who is that open to chatting with any of his students about just like your career, your life choices and stuff like that, you keep him in your life, man. Yeah, he's been instrumental, pun intended, in both of our lives and in the lives of many other of his students. Yeah,
he's been a very, very positive influence.
I know. He really made our time at UBC, especially the first 2 years, because the first 2 years are really like hard, I would say.
Yeah.
Like, because you really feel like you're being dropped into Hogwarts. And I feel like having someone like him was kind of like having a young Dumbledore, I would say.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of how it felt, was that there was a professor there looking out for you. That was Dr. Bob for everyone. I would say that probably everyone would agree with us saying that.
Yeah. No. If not all, majority, definitely.
I would definitely say majority. Yeah. So
yeah.
He's a saint. He is a saint.
Thank you, Dr. Bob.
Thank you, Dr. Bob. Oh. All right.
Have we mentioned the name, actually?
Yes.
Of our channel.
We should talk about why we named this Let's Play It By Ear podcast. So, Carrie, you should talk about this, I think.
Yeah, I think it stems from our first attempt, which was JustAdLibIt. So that just means that it's free flowing. It's not really rigid. Nothing is like truly scripted.
Yep.
And when we were trying to come up with names, we did a lot of Google searches. We searched on the thesaurus.
Yeah, we did.
And then what did we find? We had
like,
a whole list.
like I was thinking of calling this like impromptu or something like that. With the idea that like this podcast is just us being us. It's not scripted. It's guided, as you guys can tell. We have some notes with us just to make sure we don't go completely off track. But for the most part, it's improvised, and we wanted it to have that feeling of like, you know, it's just the two of us at like a coffee shop, you know, and we're just chatting, and you guys, the listeners, can just listen in on us, basically. Yeah. So yeah, we were trying to go for that kind of improvised implication. And then we fell back to our old name, JustAdLibIt, remember?
Yeah.
And then we're like, we feel like it should be like something new. Because if we went back to JustAdLibIt, like in my head, I was thinking that there would be a possibility of it being like mistaken for what we originally called ourselves, which was JustAdLibIt Productions. That's actually what we used to call ourselves. But this is a podcast, right?
It's slightly different.
Yeah, it's slightly different. And so when I actually looked up AdLibIt, like ad-lib, I looked up a synonyms for ad-lib, and literally the first thing that jumped out at me was play it by ear.
Yeah. We saw it at the same time.
Yeah, we did. We
said it to each other, like, oh.
And like
that's how the name came about.
How fitting, right? Because this is a podcast and you guys are listening. So it just worked, you know?
Yeah.
So we decided to call this Let's Play It By Ear. It has the same exact meaning as our old name, JustAdLibIt, but it's more podcast friendly. It's also more friendly to a wider audience because the word ad-lib may not come across, you know, the most like immediately, I would say, to a lot of people. And we wanted something that was very accessible.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why we chose that name. And also it's a fitting name because like, as musicians, oftentimes you would try and play things by ear.
Yeah.
Like you might not always have the music notes in front of you. So let's play it by ear.
Yep. Even
also
if
fitting for music.
Yes, even if, like me, you failed ear training first thing, you still got to learn to play things by ear, you know?
Yeah. More about that to come later.
More about that to come. This is basically
Stay tuned.
Yeah, I know. This is basically turning into a giant long trailer for this season.
I mean, it is the first episode, so it's good to tell our audiences what to expect in this season. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, what do we because I did say at the beginning of this podcast that this podcast, particular season that is, this particular opus is going to be about music school. Shall we expand on that? Why did we think of doing this podcast? How long have we been wanting to do this podcast for? All that stuff. What do we want to achieve with this podcast? Basically, this is our thesis for why this podcast exists.
Yeah. No, well, now we have our master's degree. Maybe we can
exactly
write our thesis on air.
Yeah. So,
you want to go?
Should I go? I can go. I think you guys can probably tell from, you know, how we talked about our education paths and stuff like that, that we have very parallel lives, I would say. The two of us have like kind of like very weirdly very similar family, cultural, educational, and like preference type, like preference for anything is very parallel for the two of us. Parallel and complementary, I would say.
Yeah.
So, for example, both of us were born in different countries other than the university that we ended up going to. So we, neither of us are actually locals to Vancouver. At the very least, we're not native to Vancouver, I guess is a better way.
We're not.
Yeah, we're not. So we had that going where we found some similarities in there in terms of like our experience of moving to another country. And then we obviously took exactly the same number of years to get our first degrees. And then we both went off to other countries again for our masters. Yep. And actually during our masters, we would do this type of thing. We would Skype and we would keep in touch even with the time difference. So we got very used to calculating time differences between the two of us, before everyone else had to do it for the pandemic. So yeah, we got very used to doing that. And then we even started dating our men who we are now, each married to, around the same time. I think you met your husband 1 year before I met mine, right?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. So it was very close. And then the other thing was we also got married within 2 weeks of each other.
That was crazy.
It was crazy. So you were my maid of honor.
Yep.
And your husband was our music person. And then I was your maid of honor. At that point, I guess technically matron of honor because I was married by that point. But,
Yeah. Well, technicalities,
right?
Doesn't really matter. And then your husband helped out a great deal at our wedding. He played a huge role, actually.
Yeah. And I do have to say, he looked quite dashing doing it all.
He did. Like a spy. A little bit. He played his role well.
Very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that has been crazy. We basically walked our lives, like the very important growing up part of our lives together at exactly the same time.
We did.
Like, we even found our wedding dresses at the same place at the same time.
Oh, yes, we did. That was one of the best days.
I know. I still think about that. I swear, most people there thought we were getting married to each other, which we weren't mad about.
No.
We weren't mad about that.
No.
Yeah, but it was really sweet. We had like the same seamstress. We went to our fittings at the same time. It was insane. It was amazing. Like, thinking about that, I'm like, how crazy is that we literally did that together,
And we did our bachelorette parties
back to
back as well too, like consecutive Saturdays. And then we weren't confused as a couple, but we were confused as sisters.
Yes, because I did,
which is okay too.
I know, it was fantastic. I ended up doing a cooking class, a brunch cooking class for my bachelorette, and the chef kept calling us sisters.
Yeah.
And then
we're twins.
Yeah, twins. And then we, for your bachelorette, we did a high tea, and it was just the two of us. We're introverts like that, so we did that, and that
we love food like that.
We do love food. Oh yeah, that's true. They're both related to food. We're definitely foodies, and so, but yeah, like, all this to say that we have lived our lives in a very parallel manner. And we often have conversations like this where it's like, man, it would be really cool if we could share with other people our thoughts about growing up together, basically, and experiencing real life as a musician together, balancing work-life things, learning from our experiences in school together, all that stuff, because we find ourselves talking about this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So it's like, why not record it?
Yeah.
Right.
Actually, if I can jump in, like you said, we've wanted to talk about this for a long time, but backtracking to our master's degrees, we were again in separate countries, like you said, in different time zones as well. So it wasn't always possible to have lengthy conversations like this. Mm-hmm. And we found ourselves yearning for that. And as the time passed, we kind of had a lot of things kept inside of us that we really wanted to share. Yeah. And by the time we graduated, it was like it could have been a whole book, I think, that we wrote on things that we experienced during those 2 years in our master's degrees.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think this is how it manifested.
Exactly. Because
everything that we've lived through.
I think what we both realized was that even though we wanted to do something like this for a long time since we were really young, the thing is, I think life was just going way too fast, you know? Too much stuff happens in music school, which is why we can have an entire season talking about music school. So like way too much happens in music school for you to pull off doing something like this, you know, where we can just sit down and chill and talk. And, you know, in our 20s, it was very unsettled. I would say that both of us felt extremely unsettled. Our careers, we didn't even know how they were going to take off. Our careers were just developing. And, you know, when your career is that insecure, like literally, maybe insecure is not the right word, unstable, I believe is a better word for it. With our careers being so unstable and unpredictable, like, how do you talk about that, right? Like, I think it's better for us now. We are now in our 30s. I hope that's okay to say. Yeah, we are in our 30s, and we feel like right now we're much more settled. We have a much clearer idea of, you know, what we want to do with our lives, what we want to do with our careers, how we want to balance our lives. And we're just a lot more chill now. We're settled.
Mature, I want to say.
Yeah.
Because in our 20s, we were very much just trying to find ourselves. Like you said, our careers were bits and pieces here and there. Yeah. Nothing really was for sure. We didn't know exactly which direction we were going in. So I think trying to do something like this back then, it would just have maybe ended up in more of a jumbled mess.
It would have been an interesting study in how we would have changed throughout those years, right? Yeah. But it would be more of like a kind of like live vlog type of situation. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. But I think we both felt that it's just too much going on. There was just too much going on. We're still trying to just make enough money to pay rent, you know? Yes. So like, where do you have extra space to think about making a podcast, right? But that didn't prevent us from having private conversations that were more like this, right? Yeah. So we've been actually talking like this for, oh my God, like 10 years. Yeah. 10 years. It's crazy. Yeah. But yeah, so like we've learned a lot in that time. And that's basically what we want to share with you guys is kind of our personal anecdotes and experiences and what we learned from it. Again, we don't want to pretend that we know everything because we don't. But maybe some of y'all can learn a bit from our experiences and, you know, not have to go through some of the pain that we did, right? Maybe you can avoid some pain that we went through that no one told us about. Right? That no one talked about. So we're here to talk about it.
Yeah, we would just want to share with you what we've been through, and also just if you are experiencing something that is similar, to know that you're not alone. Exactly. There are people out there who are maybe more or less experiencing a similar thing, maybe not the same thing, but yeah, there are people out there who are like you. Try and find each other, talk to each other, build a support system.
I think that is the most important thing about surviving. And we will talk about this more too, but like just reaching out and talking to someone else is huge. And I guess like in a kind of, I guess more indirect way, that's what we're trying to do for you guys. We're trying to reach out and talk about the real like life experiences that we had of going to music school. Because, you know, like when I got into music school, I really had no idea what to expect. Like nothing. None of my family had ever been to music school, had any inkling about what that world was like. So we were all actually experiencing it for the first time. Quite honestly, if there was a podcast out there that we could have listened to just glean a little bit of insight as to what it's like to go to music school.
Right.
Like, I feel like it's not that it would have made it easier per se, but it would have made me feel like just more like I'm not crazy, if that makes sense. Because you have a lot of thoughts when you're going into music school and when you're in music school where you kind of get into your head a lot. And there is a very real possibility of you feeling like you're completely crazy with how you're thinking of things or how you're dealing with things. And maybe some things feel really hard for you, but you're looking at other people and it looks like they're fine, right? So you start to feel crazy. So anyway, that's just a very vague kind of intro into basically why we are wanting to talk about all this stuff. Yeah. Anything you want to add, Carrie?
Well, I think that is actually a good way to end our first episode. And it is to offer some comfort to our listeners.
Exactly.
Share our experiences.
And what are we going to talk about next time?
Well, we are going to talk about, since we're on the topic of music school, how do you actually get into music school? That will be episode number 2.
Oh boy. So if you would like to respond, ask questions, if you want to share your own experience with us, please feel free to send us an email at letsplayitbyear.podcast@gmail.com. Again, that is letsplayitbyear.podcast@gmail.com. And we are going to have a website up by the time that this episode goes up. We'll have a website live, but as of right now, we're still working on the website, like at the time of recording this. So this will probably show up somewhere on that website. We just don't know exactly where yet. But we have bought the domain. The domain is ours, letsplayitbyear.com. So please go visit our website, check it out. It is just going to be, it's basically just a website for our podcast. So if you don't know where else to go look for us, that is the first place that we know for you guys to look for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're on social media, don't forget to check out our social media pages, which will also be up and live by the time that this podcast is out. So you can also connect with us through there.
Facebook, Twitter, right?
Instagram. Yeah.
And I think we're all Let's Play by Ear.
Yeah.
On all of them, right?
Let's Play It by Ear podcast, I believe.
Perfect. So Let's Play It by Ear podcast everywhere. Go find us, follow us, like us, all that good social media stuff.
Yep.
Alrighty, I believe that's it. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you guys next time.
See you.
Bye-bye.